Craig Fromm
is now exiting.
Ready, Robert? Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the October 20th, 2021 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. At this time, I request that everyone please turn off or mute all electronic devices. And I would also ask everyone to please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Applications for conditional use permit requests will be heard during tonight's meeting, and the commission will vote on these applications and make a recommendation to the county council. The applications will then be scheduled to be introduced before the county council at the Monday, November the 8th, 2021 county council meeting. Public comment for conditional use permit requests will be taken during tonight's meeting and at the council meeting on Monday, November the 8th, 2021. Public comment on conditional use permit applications will not be taken at any meeting of the county council held thereafter. The following documents are introduced as a matter of record for this evening's public hearing and regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. The Unified Development Ordinance of St. Charles County, including zoning maps, the year 2030 Master Plan for St. Charles County, which includes the year 2030 Future Land Use Plan map. I see that we have a quorum. The chair will entertain a motion to open the meeting.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, sign aye. Aye. And for the record, Mr. Fromm is present and attending the meeting virtually. How we go about our meetings, I will read into the record the application. We'll ask the applicant to come forward, ask the staff for their recommendation, then have the applicant come to present their application, and then open the meeting up for a public hearing so the public can make comments regarding the application. We will close the public hearing as the applicant to come back, answer any questions that the commission may have, and then the commission may proceed to vote on the application. If you speak this evening, please fill out one of these cards. They're located right up here on the table. This is to ensure that we get your name and address, etc., correct in our minutes. The first application on our agenda this evening is a conditional use permit request, 3678 Highway D. It's application CUP 21-17. This is a conditional use permit to construct a 115-foot tall monopole telecommunications tower with adjustments to exceed height, setback, and spacing standards. The applicant has requested that this application be continued to the November 17th, 2021 meeting. So we will not, if anyone's here this evening regarding this application, that will be on the agenda for the November 17th, 2021 meeting. The next item on our agenda is a conditional use permit amendment request. The location is 5435 Westwood Drive. The application number CUP 21-06. The property owner is Weldon Spring Business Park, LLC. The applicant is Joseph Weber, owner and organizer of Weldon Spring Business Park, LLC. The property zoning is C2, General Commercial District. The request is to amend Ordinance 07098 for conditional use permit C682 to increase the size of the outdoor storage area. The parcel size is 4.03 acres. The location is on the north side of Westwood Drive, approximately 275 feet northeast of Jason Court, adjoining the city of Weldon Spring. This is located in Council District 3. Staff.
Great, that's the photo I needed. Thank you. As stated, the request is actually an amendment to an existing conditional use permit approved in 2007 for the same purpose as previously applied for, which is an outdoor storage yard for automobiles, boats, trucks, trailers, and recreational vehicles. The property, just a little bit of history might give us some context. In 1986, this property and several surrounding properties were annexed by the city of St. Peters. And at that time, the city of St. Peters rezoned the property to C2, Community Commercial District. The owner then proceeded to develop the property as a nursery and a garden center. And then in 1990, the St. Charles County Circuit Court determined that St. Peters annexation was improper and invalid, and so it reverted back to county's jurisdiction, county zoning. So the previous single-family residential zoning was reestablished, making the commercial usage of the property nonconformity. In 1991, the next year, the owners applied to the county to rezone the property to C2, General Commercial District, to resolve that nonconformity, which the county did approve in 1991. Fast forward to 1997, the property was zoned commercial C2 already, so by right, the property could be developed under the C2 district zoning. So in 1997, an indoor roller skating rink called Skate Galaxy with a parking lot, large parking lot, were constructed on the property. And that was operated until about 2014. So today, the property, the existing building on that property is not used for the Skate Galaxy, but instead, as I understand it, for a building contractor storage. So they have this contractor storage building and this large parking lot. Back behind that is where we're talking about. We're talking behind the skate, what I'll call the Skate Galaxy building, just for reference. So in 2007, the property owner at that time requested a conditional use permit for this storage yard, automobile, boat, and recreational vehicle storage yard. In your packet, there is an aerial photograph of the existing storage yard, and then also the concept plan as they submitted in 2007. You'll notice that that's on the northeast corner of the property, closest to the homes. I think that's Crystal, oh, I'm sorry, let's see what the name of the street is. Crystal Drive, right. So that existing storage lot is closer to the homes in Crystal Drive. The area that they're talking about for expansion is actually in the northwest corner of this property, in the back, what I'll call the back corner. It's behind the Skate Galaxy building, Jason Court, this commercial park, I'll call it, wraps around that corner of the property. And so the area they're proposing to expand is not towards the residences, but instead towards these, the existing Jason Court buildings. In our conditional use permit analysis, this is covered in more detail in your written staff report, but we always ask the same questions for every conditional use permit. Would establishing the conditional use be detrimental to or endanger public health, safety, or the general welfare? And county staff would offer that the requested use is an expansion of an or existing storage lot on the property. The proposed use will not differ from the existing use, other than it would occupy a larger area, and the use would be towards the adjoining Jason Court Business Park. And those property lines, meaning that the use would not cause land use conflicts. In other words, you've got commercial bordering commercial rather than residential. We don't believe it should be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, or general welfare. Second, would the conditional use injure the use and enjoyment of the other property in the immediate vicinity for the purposes already permitted? Again, the expansion would be towards Jason Court, It would be largely screened from Westwood Drive by the existing Skate Galaxy building, and it would not join any residences. Third, would the conditional use injure the aesthetic and/or scenic values of the vicinity? And for the same reasons that I just cited under criteria number 2, county staff recommends a finding that it would not do so. 4, would the conditional use substantially diminish or impair property values within the neighborhood? We don't have any evidence that it would do so. This criteria, basically, we rely upon a report, for instance, that might be prepared by a licensed appraiser saying that it would impact property values. We don't have any such report available to us that would be the case. 5, would the conditional use impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding property for uses permitted in the zoning district? And county staff recommends a finding that it would not. As stated at the beginning of the presentation, this is technically an amendment to an existing conditional use permit. What I mean by that is, in the existing conditional use permit, there's a paper copy in front of you. It's also in the digital packet online. But there's 4 conditions in this 2007 ordinance that approved the conditional use permit. Now, county staff, actually me, in reviewing this memo to you, I mistakenly wrote the conditions as if this were a brand-new conditional use permit, when really it's an amendment to an existing conditional use permit. What I mean by that is when it's an amendment, what I'll often do is do it underlines and strikeouts and show you proposed wording that we're recommending to the county council. In this case, I didn't do that. So one of your options would be that you could approve this without conditions, or you could recommend approval without conditions. You could recommend approval with conditions, and I would ask that if possible, if you see a way that you propose amended conditions from what was approved in 2007, or you could recommend denial of the conditional use permit. And county staff, for the reasons cited in your staff memo, recommends approval with certain conditions.
Any questions for staff?
Just for my own clarification, to staff recommendation, all the 7 conditions would have to be part of this, what we would be.
Well, those 7 conditions are just suggestions for you.
Okay,
That's our option.
It's a starting point.
Okay, that's fine, that's fine. I
Yeah.
just wanted to see if you're recommending all of
Yeah.
this. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
We can,
Where do we find these 7 conditions? Is it on?
no.
7 proposed or suggested conditions are in the written staff report that's also online. It's in the packet. And
Is that this 3rd one here?
let me give you my copy.
No, look in your computer.
Okay.
Look at the agenda, your packet. Staff report.
I'm looking past the opposition letter. Is it at the end? Nope, too far. You see all the, sorry,
Well, that's okay.
I'm in trouble.
It's
I'm
Steve
just
starting
not
up
seeing
here.
them online.
Are you,
Yeah, I have this. I don't think I have this. I don't have this.
Okay, right
printed.
here.
There it is.
There it is.
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
I just don't have the printed copy. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Hearing none, we'll ask the applicant to come forward. I'll need to swear you in, so please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings under the pains and penalties of perjury.
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Joseph Weber, 355 Galahad Drive, Walden Spring, Missouri, 63304.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Weber.
I think the presentation explains everything. Do you guys have any questions for me, or would you like me to add to his?
Anybody have any questions for the applicant?
No, I think it's laid out.
I took the property over in April, actually March. I bought the adjoining properties along Jason Court, of which there's 5 buildings. So the expansion of this lot will actually, if you see in the drawing, the second building, which has the address 30, right? So that lot that we're going to expand to is going to basically touch up against that building. I know one of the suggestions was that maybe maintain some sort of vegetation buffer between that. There's actually a utility right-of-way through there that, it's basically honeysuckle that's in there right now, which is kind of a pain because it's growing up the building, so we've taken it down. I don't know if putting back vegetation in that same spot is practical, but maybe in the front of the property, if we can add some vegetation in the front, not so much, maybe adjacent to our driveway. We are taking down a few trees. I would call them most non-desirable. So I have no problem coming back and giving us a little bit better curb appeal along Westwood Drive. Also, where the lot is, you can see the property line for the 3 buildings in the back. There's a property line, I guess that goes east and west. Another utility easement goes through there, and there are poles back there, and we currently have LED lighting supplied by Ameren, dusk to dawn lights that we pay them, and that's the lighting that we're actually getting right now. It doesn't per se have the hoods or the shielding around it that they're recommending, and I don't know if that type of lighting is going to be practical utilizing Ameren's poles, because we can only get so high up on their poles before their transformers present. But I have no problem with the other recommendations with the shielding. One thing I was going to ask is to the east, which would be the right side of this lot, we have to maintain a 30-foot vegetation. The vegetation that's there is undesirable and constantly needs to be cut back. It's mainly honeysuckle. I would like to be able to clear that and reinstall new, say, arborvitae or some sort of, white pines or something through there. If
Mr. Was it Norwegian spruce? Is that Mr. Griffin's? What was
White-
Mr.
white
Griffin's?
pines, yeah, they use the white pines.
Norwegian spruce, or what was
The
that?
white pines.
Yeah.
Blue spruce.
blue
What-
spruce are very expensive, but I wouldn't mind putting some of those up front.
Yeah. So,
But if maybe we could do a planting of some arborvitae, maybe on 10-foot centers, get some 6-foot, they grow pretty quickly. Not that everybody sees it, but I know I have a neighbor that really can't see it either, but I get the idea of having a buffer there so that if they go out in their yard, they're not seeing everything there.
yeah, that's probably the most stretch on Westwood where there's homes.
Yeah, there's,
There's a few homes back up by, when it first, comes through the light, a few homes, and then past Motherheads, there's a stretch here where you're on that side from home, and then past that, it's mostly all commercial.
right?
Yeah. So, any other questions for the applicant? Seeing none? Thank you, sir.
right, thank
We
you.
may have you back. We'll now open the public hearing for CUP 21-06. Anyone here wishing to speak regarding this conditional use permit amendment request? Evening, Arnie.
Good evening.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dienoff, County Public Advocate. Mailing address is P.O. Box 1535, in O'Fallon, 63366. This is a real tough one for me. As you all know, my stance on outdoor storage, it shouldn't be on our frontage corridors. It shouldn't be on our prime real estate. It should be in the back of prime real estate where it's not seen. In my opinion, this is not the best use of the property. This application has been hanging around since the June meeting of the commission. But I do believe in property owner rights. This is right off a major corridor. As you all know, it's near Missouri Highway 94. There is a need in the community for storage, but also storage lots need to have their place. We don't want to start looking like Lincoln County or other counties that don't have zoning and some type of requirements. I believe that storage lots should be put in the back, not in the prime frontage commercial properties, but in the rear. The whole reason of a conditional use permit, or a CUP, is for this commission to make recommendations to the county council to set some reasonable restrictions or some reasonable adherence and control of the property to ensure that the community, the neighborhood, and the adjoining property owners are being represented and that their rights are being upheld. There's a few issues if you would be inclined to pass this conditional use permit. I would like to see the following conditions be added to the applicant: that no derelict or unlicensed vehicles be allowed on the property, that no outdoor repairs of vehicles, trucks, boats, or RVs be allowed on the property, that no storage of parts, hazardous waste, chemicals, or fireworks be allowed on the property, that no body work be performed on the property, that no painting of vehicles or boats or RVs be allowed on the property, that there be no sales of autos, trucks, trailers, RVs, boats, or other sales, no rental of trailers, RVs, or other type vehicles, that no one lives in their RV vehicles or their motorhomes, and that nobody lives on the property in some type of tent or some type of makeshift housing. To ensure the property owners and the few homes that are off of Westwood, I would ask the commission to add the following conditions: that number one, type 3 landscape berm with fence and trees be erected, and that the landscaping needs to be adhered to. And I'd like to see the following conditions added: that we move the 10-foot buffer to a 25-foot buffer. I feel that's reasonable. And that the planting of additional trees, which was discussed by the applicant and some members of the commission, be added as a screen, especially in the rear of the property and the front of the property. I'm going to leave the decision up to you as commissioners on what recommendation you make to the county council, but I would ask that there be some form of reassurance, some form of holding the applicant accountable with the following conditions that I have proposed. If there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Any questions for Mr. Denoff? Seeing none, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll ask the applicant to come back. Any additional questions for the applicant?
Well, I guess a couple of the issues that Mr. Denoff raised was about any kind of additional commercial use of either renting or sales or anything out of that. Is that in any way the intent of this?
No. We do have commercial space that we rent. So if someone was wanting to do one of those items inside, I'm not sure if we're allowed that in C2. I'd have to look at that, but that would be something that would be done inside of a building. I agree, I don't want any derelict vehicles outside or repairs. You know, doesn't look real good when they do that. I'm not
What
so
kind of materials are currently stored inside the Skate Galaxy?
We have a contractor, well, myself, I'm half the occupant.
Okay.
We've just, actually we were permitted to put demising walls inside to take the 19,000 square foot building and make it 4,700 square foot spaces. And we're not finished with those divisions, but when I purchased the building, I had a contractor in there using the space. He was the seller of it. I myself also have an occupancy permit. I'm property management company myself.
And
But-
what types of materials are stored in this? Because I would think it would be kind of an office warehouse type of.
Yeah, the contractor has pallet racking. I think he's allowed to store up to 10 or 11 foot. He does a lot of restoration work, so if your home floods for whatever reason, he has a lot of blowers for drying things in, vacuum cleaners, saws and what have you. Nothing that's, you know, I don't want any chemicals being stored in there, fireworks, that kind of stuff.
Is there any building per se going on in the side of the building, or is it just more storage?
Inside the building is just the partitions that we're putting up. We've been permitted by the county.
Oh,
for
yeah, I'm not
yeah.
talking about that. I mean, within the space it's partitioned off.
I'm sorry, is there any,
Like, manufacturing type of
No.
things going on?
No, we're not allowed for that. That's a light industrial application.
Right, I just wanted to check.
And I haven't had anybody inquire about that. So since I've purchased the adjacent buildings, we have moved a few new tenants in who are in the process of, maybe a roofing repair company or Mr. Fix-It is moving in.
Mostly just storing things there, though?
Yeah, small trade people.
Gotcha.
Running their business out of there.
Okay.
The other thing is, I don't know if it's possible to expand a 10-foot setback to make a 25-foot setback. Like I said, the picture's not up, but we're on the west side of the lot where the adjacent court buildings are. Those buildings have setbacks. They have a rear yard setback. This would pertain to the side yard setback. So if you see number 30 up there,
Yeah.
well, it has a setback, which would be its rear yard setback. This lot then would have a side yard setback. I see no benefit to expanding that. I see no reason to have a setback there at all, because the easement is going to dictate anything getting built back there, because the gas, water, sewer, electricity all runs through there, and they frown upon you doing anything within their easement, anything permanent.
How wide is the easement?
I want to say it's 20 foot on either side of the poles. They have the right to drive a truck down there and replace the pole and the transformer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We will bring, did I close the public hearing? I did close the public hearing.
Yeah, you did.
I did, okay. I was reading. So we'll bring CUP 21-06 back to the commission for consideration. Is there any questions, comments?
I think that we do need to discuss the buffering. In general, it seems to me that this is a continued use. It doesn't seem to me to be greatly impacting the people around there, since there's a commercial use in between. But I do think maybe we need to have some kind of discussion of what kind of buffering or vegetation should be there, just perhaps as the county has on condition 6, the vegetated buffer of 10 feet. But I do think that that's a condition that should be added for sure.
Okay, we have the 7 proposed conditions from the staff.
Can I clarify? I just want to make sure I understood. The 10-foot buffer to the west would be between the lot that you own and then the building that you also own. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So I really see no benefit of putting vegetation back there. You could see actually someone wanting to pave that to make it a hard surface, to make it more usable. Instead of putting a buffer back there when no one's going to enjoy it, I would rather trade out that for doing some additional plantings up near the road, was my idea.
And then you had a concern about conditional use or condition 4, which was that the exterior lighting would have full cutoff light fixtures. I guess that wouldn't, you would have to replace the light fixtures that you have currently with a different kind if we put that condition on. Is that correct?
I don't believe that Ameren offers those. Those are Ameren's dusted-on lights that are already in place.
Okay.
Those lights are located from the road about 450 feet.
And those aren't on your property, correct? Those are on.
They're on the
On
easement
the
between
easement, okay.
one property. They are on my property.
Okay.
However, they're in a piece of property where I've given an easement to Ameren to put those poles and the transformers to supply electricity to the buildings.
So they're not your lights, so they're Ameren's lights?
Correct.
Okay. So would you be putting any more exterior lighting?
I would rather not. I'd rather continue utilizing theirs.
Okay.
Yeah, because there'll be sufficient light from this to cover because it covers all the existing ground there now.
It is, and then the building, the old skating rink has LEDs that shoot down into the parking lot. Those are more directional. Those shoot down, and then there's also others that shoot back. It's lit up pretty well, actually. And it goes from sundown to sunrise.
Yeah.
Yeah, sun up.
I note that the condition number 2 says that all trees illustrated on the approved site plan shall be maintained in a healthy condition. You had mentioned removing some trees and putting different trees in. Is that all illustrated on the site plan?
I think the site plan showed existing vegetation that obviously would have to be removed for us to be able to park on it.
Okay.
There is vegetation on the north side, where the lights are, on those same poles. There are native cedar trees.
Go ahead.
There are native cedar trees with underlying honeysuckle. The honeysuckle is what the pane is. And the cedar trees, we basically have low limbed up so you can actually see underneath of them. So we want the foliage, but we want to make sure that we can see from all four sides, so it's from a security standpoint.
So I guess my question is, would this condition number 2 that says all trees illustrated on the approved site plan shall be maintained in a healthy condition with diseased or dead trees replaced, would that pose an issue to your current plan?
No, I would not
So
say.
you're fine with that condition
Right.
then? Okay. Are there any of these conditions that you do have an issue with, other than the vegetative buffer of 10 feet? Do you have a copy of the conditions?
I sure do. And I do not, just the lighting and the possibility of taking the 30-foot wide buffer between, which would be my east side.
Well, number six mentions the 10-foot buffer
10-foot
that you
buffer.
said you didn't like.
Well, the 10-foot buffer would be on the west-hand side.
Correct.
West side, which would be basically between my lot and my building.
So
And
you'd
I'd
rather not have
I'd rather not plant there.
Okay.
But if we need to get vegetation credits per se, I'd rather put them up on Westwood, where the old house used to be located.
Okay, so you would prefer that condition number 6 be amended to not include the vegetative buffer of 10 feet? And then it also says the existing 30-foot wide buffer to the east shall be maintained. It sounds like you would rather change that buffer to something else.
I'm okay with it being, I would like to take down what's there and replace it.
But you would still maintain the buffer, so
Yes.
it would still
Yes.
fit? Okay.
Yes.
I personally don't see an issue with removing the 10-foot. It's abutting another commercial zone property, it's not along residential. To me, that's a condition that could be removed on number 6. And then,
So when everyone drives the truck down.
Sure.
they're gonna tear it down anyway,
Yeah.
so.
So there goes your vegetation.
He wants to know, like,
Do I need to restate that? Sorry.
Sure, if you want to.
Let's see if I can articulate it, what I said earlier. I don't see an issue with the 10-foot buffer on the west side, removing that condition. Amron's gonna take that down. It's a commercial lot abutting another commercial lot. It makes sense to remove that portion of the condition. And I guess the question for staff is the 30-foot, if you remove that buffer, they're still gonna have to maintain some type of buffer. So if you get rid of honeysuckle, which is not the most desirable type of tree, and replace that with something else, I think
Yep.
that would probably meet the intention of that condition. Is that how that was written and suggested, Robert?
Just make sure mine's on. Yes, so we would be fine with removing the 10-foot buffer requirement, backing up to the adjacent court. On the other side, the 30-foot, the original condition was no clearing or grading within 30 feet of the eastern property line. All existing vegetation within the area shall be retained. So I don't know if there are any like really mature trees in there, that to lose those trees would be a detriment to the neighbors on Crystal View. But I can definitely see, there's nothing in this about maintenance. There's nothing to say that you can't go in there and clear out brush, that you can't remove and replace diseased and dead trees, things like that. So I think there is some wiggle room there. You can do that now. You can clear out brush, you can replace dead and diseased trees, things like that. I don't know if that helps or not. If to totally go in and replace it, you might want to replace it with a fence and some trees, just because it's going to take some years to reestablish trees, I'm guessing. Because I'm guessing that from Crystal View, looking towards that area, they probably can't see the storage area because there's like woody growth of trees, I'm guessing. And if you replace those and take them out with new trees that are 2.5-inch caliper trees, spaced 25 feet apart, it's going to take some years for that to reestablish and be able to see around. But right now, you can do maintenance. You can remove brush and the honeysuckle. You can replace a tree if you need to. You know, if it's diseased or dying, or if it's just a low-quality tree. There's nothing in here that in this existing condition says you can't replace trees.
So I have an idea, I guess, for number 4. since it currently says all exterior lighting on site shall utilize full cutoff light fixtures, can I suggest that we amend that to all added or additional exterior lighting shall utilize full cutoff light fixtures? Because that causes them not to have to remove the lighting that's already there and replace it with these full cutoff light fixtures. But if they were to put up any more, they would have to be, does that sound reasonable?
Yep.
Can I add something to that, if that's okay? You know what, that's what we really intended when this was written, that any new additional lighting within that little compound would just be focused where it would cast the lighting downward towards the storage area and not towards neighbors. That's what we intended.
Okay.
But we wrote it a little bit loose, so I understand where you're coming from. It sounds like that this would require all lighting to be placed on the entire site, but that's not what we were aiming for.
Okay. Any other questions? Concerns? Okay. The chair will entertain a motion to amend ordinance number 07098 by the deletion of the conditions in section 2 of the conditional use permit, and that section 2 be amended by the inclusion of the following. A site plan in accordance with the concept plan attached as part of Exhibit B shall be submitted to and approved by the St. Charles County Community Development Department. All trees, number 2, all trees illustrated on the approved site plan shall be maintained in a healthy condition with diseased or dead trees replaced. Number 3, all items stored must be maintained in highway-ready state. Number 4, all future exterior lighting on the site shall utilize full cutoff light fixtures. Number 5, proposed fencing as viewed from Westwood Drive shall be screened or made opaque. Number 6, applicants shall maintain or install to the west, let me back up. The existing 30-foot wide buffer to the east shall be maintained. And 7, no conditional use shall become active until all conditions of approval have been met. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Clary, second by Mr. Hollander. Mr. Fromm, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Cornwell?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Clary?
Yes.
Ms. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Hollander?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The application passes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now get back to the agenda. Okay, we have no plats, no continued items, so the next thing on our agenda is the approval of the September 15, 2021 meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, sign aye.
Aye.
Next, is there any division updates?
I don't have any update for you this evening.
Okay, no updates. The chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, sign aye.
Aye.